Hello, everyone. Welcome back to End Times Ambience. If you want to skip this director's introduction, the timestamp will be in the first comment below, as well as a link to our Patreon, which currently has a lot of exclusive videos for you to check out. Today, we are diving into a brand new original story called The Sea of Sulfur that explores an extinction level event where the Earth's air becomes unbreathable. And we're going to track humanity's attempt to survive this apocalyptic scenario as they have to get to elevated areas to escape the toxic gas that is being released by the Earth's oceans. So this was a lot of fun to make. When I was researching this particular scenario, I really wanted to come up with something that was scientifically plausible. So everything you hear in here is actually scientifically plausible, very, very unlikely, but plausible. So I hope you have a lot of fun with this one and enjoy the show.
Good evening, I'm Jack Harris. Tonight we're continuing our coverage of what meteorologists are now calling the hottest summer in recorded history. For the 14th consecutive week, temperatures across 6 continents have broken previous records, and there's no sign of relief on the horizon. We're also tracking an unusual oceanographic report released this morning by the Woods Hole Institute. Our own Leon Levy is live along the Carolina coast tonight. Leon, what's the situation on the ground?
Jack, I'm standing about a half mile from the Myrtle Beach fishing pier. And I'll be honest with you, the smell out here is something else. Locals are calling it swamp gas. They say it's been drifting in off the water for the past week or so. Nothing dangerous, just unpleasant. What's got the marine biologists concerned isn't the smell, it's what's happening further offshore. Fishing boats are reporting massive patches of discolored water, greenish, almost milky. And the water temperature readings are, well, they're calling them anomalous, significantly higher than seasonal averages.
And Leon, any word from officials about public health concerns?
County Health says they're monitoring, but there's nothing to suggest any immediate risk. They're treating it as an ecological nuisance for now. Some residents are complaining of mild eye irritation, a little coughing, but nothing that's sending people to hospitals.
Leon Levy, live from Myrtle Beach. We'll check back in with you later this hour. For more context on what's driving these changes in our oceans, we're joined now by Dr. Adrian Helmsley, an oceanographer and geochemist with the Scripps Institution. Dr. Helmsley, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Jack.
Doctor, I'm holding a copy of the report that came out this morning. The language is technical, but the basic claim seems to be that something has stopped in the deep ocean. Can you explain what that means?
Yes. What the report describes is a significant weakening of the thermohaline circulation. Think of the ocean as a massive conveyor belt. Cold, dense water sinks at the poles, travels along the bottom, and rises again at the equator. This process, this churning, is what keeps the deep ocean oxygenated. What we're seeing now is that the temperature difference between the equator and the poles has shrunk dramatically. The water isn't sinking the way it should. The conveyor belt is, for lack of a better word, stalling.
And that explains the smell our reporter mentioned. The discolored water?
Indirectly, yes. When deep water stops circulating, it becomes stagnant. Biological material sinks down there and decomposes, consuming whatever oxygen is left. Eventually the chemistry changes. The report uses the term Canfield Ocean to describe one possible outcome.
Canfield Ocean. I'm not familiar with the term.
It refers to a theoretical state where the deep ocean becomes entirely depleted of oxygen and enriched with hydrogen sulfide instead. It's named after the scientist who proposed the model. We believe this condition existed in the distant past during certain mass extinction events.
Mass extinction. That's quite a phrase. Should people be worried?
What I would say is that the data warrants continued observation. We're in early stages. The smell your reporter described, the discoloration, these are symptoms of localized oxygen depletion in shallow coastal waters. It's not pleasant, but it doesn't indicate an imminent crisis. Not yet.
Dr. Adrian Helmsley, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. When we return, the latest on federal drought relief packages and why some farmers in the Midwest are calling them too little, too late. Stay with us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Dustin Hall, and look, I know we usually do some lighter stuff on here, cryptids, weird historical anomalies, that kind of thing, but something's been bugging me this week, and I figured I should share it with you all. So I was scrolling through some local Facebook groups yesterday. Yeah, I know, I'm that guy, and I came across something interesting. A bunch of fishermen down in the Carolinas and Georgia coast have been posting pictures. Dead fish. I mean a lot of dead fish, belly up at the waterline, clustered in coves, washing up in the marshes. Now, fish die-offs happen. That's not news on its own. You get a red tide, an algae bloom, a temperature spike, it happens. What caught my attention was how many different places were reporting the same thing at the same time. Not one beach, not one inlet, dozens, spread out across hundreds of miles of coastline. And here's the other thing. The watercolor. People keep mentioning it. Greenish, kind of murky, almost like one guy described it as looking like the water in an old neglected aquarium. That stuck with me. Anyone who's ever kept fish knows what happens when you don't change the tank. The oxygen levels drop, the chemistry shifts, things start dying. So I started digging, pulled up some data from NOAA, some readings from buoy sensors offshore, and what I found was, honestly, a little concerning. Dissolved oxygen levels in several coastal zones are way below seasonal averages. We're talking 30–40% below. In some places near the bottom, the readings are close to zero. Now here's where I'll admit, I'm not a scientist. I don't have letters after my name, but I can read and I can cross-reference. And when I started looking at historical patterns, what jumped out at me is that these numbers don't line up with a typical algae bloom. They don't match any of the seasonal die-off models. Something else is going on here. So I started asking myself, what could cause widespread oxygen depletion across that big of an area? The obvious answer is industrial runoff. Agricultural waste, fertilizers washing into the waterways, triggering algae blooms that suck up the oxygen when they decompose. That's happened before. Gulf of Mexico dead zone, same basic principle. But here's the thing, that kind of runoff creates localized dead zones. You can map them. They form near river mouths, near discharge points. What I'm seeing in these reports isn't localized. It's diffuse. It's everywhere at once. Like the whole coastline woke up one morning and forgot how to breathe. And then there's the smell. Multiple people in these posts are complaining about a sulfur odor, rotten eggs. Now, hydrogen sulfide has a very distinct smell. Most people recognize it even at low concentrations. It's a byproduct of anaerobic decomposition, what happens when things break down without oxygen. If you're smelling that at the shoreline, it means something, somewhere, is rotting in a place where there isn't enough oxygen for normal bacteria to do their job. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying the ocean is dying. I'm not trying to stir up panic. What I am saying is that something is off. And the mainstream coverage I've seen so far is treating this like a minor ecological inconvenience. A footnote, a strange smell and some dead fish, nuisance level stuff. But I've been doing this show long enough to know that the weird stuff that gets dismissed as nuisance level is usually the weird stuff that matters most later. That's where the patterns hide, in the footnotes, in the things people don't want to look at too closely. So here's what I'm asking from you all. If you're listening from a coastal area, keep your eyes open. Take pictures. Note the dates and times when you notice something unusual. If you've got friends in marine biology, environmental science, anything like that, ask questions. Don't accept we're monitoring the situation as a final answer. Because the thing about dead zones is this, by the time you realize how big they are, it's usually already too late to do anything about them. The damage is done. The chemistry is shifted. And whatever was living there before is just gone. Alright. That's what I've got for tonight. I'll try to get someone with an actual marine science background on the show next week to talk about this in more detail. Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep asking the questions nobody else wants to ask. I'm Dustin Hall. Thanks for listening.
Good evening. I'm Jack Harris. Tonight, what was initially dismissed as a localized coastal nuisance has become a global environmental crisis. Waters along every major continental coastline have taken on a disturbing greenish discoloration, and the smell that began in isolated pockets is now impossible to ignore. We're going to take you live to Savannah, where Leon Levy has been tracking developments on the ground. Leon, what's the situation there?
Jack, I'm about 100 yards from the water right now. And I've got to tell you, the change from even 2 weeks ago is dramatic. The water isn't blue anymore. It isn't even brown. It's this thick, opaque greenish-white color. Like someone dumped 1 million gallons of spoiled milk into the Atlantic. The smell is significantly worse than before. My eyes have been watering since I got out of the van. Locals are wearing bandanas, scarves, anything they can find. A few people have been complaining of headaches and nausea. I saw a kid earlier who couldn't stop coughing.
Leon, what are officials telling residents at this point?
The EPA has air quality monitors set up along the beach. They're saying concentrations are elevated but still within the irritation range, somewhere between 10 and 20 parts per million. That's enough to make you uncomfortable, but they're insisting it's not dangerous. People are being told to limit time outdoors if they're sensitive, but I'll tell you, Jack, the mood here is nervous. The beaches are closed. Tourism is dead. Nobody wants to be near the water right now.
And Leon, the discoloration itself, do we know what's causing it?
Marine biologists are calling it a bacterial bloom, specifically green sulfur bacteria. Apparently these organisms thrive in low oxygen, high sulfide conditions. What I'm told is that they form massive dense layers in the upper water column, maybe 200 feet deep or so. The scientists I spoke with earlier said the bacteria are actually consuming hydrogen sulfide that's rising from deeper water. They're acting like a filter. In a sense, absorbing the gas before it reaches the surface.
So the bacteria are helping? In some way?
That's one way to look at it. Yeah. One researcher described them as a biological buffer. The problem is, the buffer isn't catching everything. Some of the gas is leaking through. That's what we're smelling. That's what's causing the irritation. And, you know, nobody's saying this out loud, but there's a question hanging in the air out here. If the bacteria are already overwhelmed enough that gas is getting through now, what happens if the situation gets worse? What happens if the filter fails?
Leon, are officials addressing that possibility?
They're saying they're watching it closely. That's the phrase I keep hearing. Monitoring the situation. But when you ask for specifics, when you ask what the contingency is if concentrations spike, you don't get a straight answer. I don't think they have one.
Leon Levy, reporting live from Savannah. Thank you, Leon. Please stay safe out there. We're receiving similar reports from coastlines around the world tonight. Japan, the UK, Australia, Brazil, the same greenish discoloration, the same sulfur odor, the same confusion about what exactly is happening beneath the surface. International health organizations are coordinating, but so far, there's no unified response. We'll continue to bring you updates as this situation develops. If you live in a coastal area, please follow local advisories and limit outdoor exposure. When we return, markets react to what analysts are calling the first environmental event with truly global reach. Stay with us.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dustin Hall, and I've got a guest tonight who I've been trying to get on the show for 2 weeks now. When we last talked about the coastal die-offs in the discolored water, a lot of you reached out asking for someone with real expertise to break down what's actually happening. Well, here we are. Joining me is Dr. Adrienne Helmsley. She's an oceanographer and geochemist who spent the last 20 years studying deep ocean chemistry. You've probably seen her on some of the network coverage. Dr. Helmsley, thanks for making time for us.
Thank you for having me, Dustin. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this in more depth than the usual news format allows.
So let's start with basics. The green water, the smell, the fish die-offs. You've been seeing all the same reports we have. What's your read on what's actually going on?
The short version is that we're witnessing the beginning stages of a large-scale shift in ocean chemistry. The deep ocean has become stagnant. Oxygen levels are collapsing. And in response, we're seeing the emergence of conditions that haven't existed on Earth in millions of years.
Okay, but back up. When you say the deep ocean has become stagnant, what does that actually mean? How does an entire ocean just stop moving?
It's a temperature problem. Ocean circulation is driven by density differences. Cold, salty water sinks at the poles and travels along the seafloor toward the equator. Warmer water rises to replace it. This giant conveyor belt keeps the deep ocean oxygenated, brings fresh oxygen down from the surface. The problem is that circulation depends on temperature gradients. The poles need to be significantly colder than the equator for the system to work. What we've seen over the past several months is a dramatic reduction in that gradient. The poles are warming, the differential is shrinking, the conveyor belt is stalling.
So when the conveyor stalls, the deep water just sits there. And without fresh oxygen coming down.
Exactly. Biological material, dead organisms, waste, organic detritus sinks to the bottom and decomposes. That decomposition consumes oxygen. Under normal conditions, the circulation replaces what's consumed. When it stops, the oxygen runs out.
And then what happens? What takes over?
Anaerobic bacteria. Organisms that don't need oxygen to survive. Specifically, sulfate-reducing bacteria. They break down organic matter using sulfate as an energy source instead of oxygen, and the byproduct of that process is hydrogen sulfide.
The rotten egg gas.
Yes, hydrogen sulfide. It accumulates in the deep water, and eventually, if conditions persist, it begins to migrate upward through the water column.
That's what people are smelling at the surface?
Partly. Most of the upwelling hydrogen sulfide is currently being consumed by the green sulfur bacteria we're seeing in the Photic zone, the sunlit upper layer. Those bacteria use light and sulfide for energy. They're acting as a biological filter right now.
But the smell is getting through anyway.
Yes, the filter isn't catching everything. And this is where I need you to understand something important.
Go ahead.
Hydrogen sulfide is heavier than air. It has a molar mass of about 34 grams per mole. Standard air is around 29. That means if significant quantities of this gas are released at the surface, it won't rise, it won't disperse into the upper atmosphere. It'll sink.
Like water?
Exactly like water. It'll pool in low-lying areas. It'll channel through valleys. It'll collect in basements, subway tunnels, anywhere lower than the surrounding terrain. And it won't mix with the air above it. It'll just sit there.
That's a significant claim. You're describing a scenario where the atmosphere itself becomes stratified.
There's a term for it. Chemocline upward excursion. It's a theoretical event where the chemical boundary layer separating toxic deep water from breathable surface water migrates upward through the water column, and eventually into the atmosphere itself.
Has this ever happened before? In Earth's history?
We believe so. The Permian-Triassic boundary, roughly 250 million years ago. The largest mass extinction event in Earth's history. Over 90% of all species went extinct. The geochemical evidence suggests massive hydrogen sulfide releases played a major role.
And you're saying the conditions we're seeing now are similar?
I'm saying the conditions are moving in that direction. The green sulfur bacteria bloom. That's a warning sign. Those organisms only thrive when the toxic layer reaches sunlight depth. Their presence means the chemocline is already dangerously close to the surface. If the filter fails, if the bacterial layer gets overwhelmed,
then the gas starts coming up.
At volumes we're not prepared for. Yes.
Dr. Helmsley, I have to ask, why aren't we hearing more about this? Why isn't this on the front page of every newspaper?
Because it's theoretical. Because the models aren't certain. because nobody wants to cause a panic based on projections, and because, honestly, I don't think most people can accept what the data is suggesting. It's too large, too catastrophic. The human brain doesn't process threats of this scale.
Dr. Adrian Helmsley, thank you for being here tonight. I think we all have a lot to think about.
Thank you, Dustin. I wish I had better news.
That's all for tonight, everyone. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and maybe start thinking about elevation. I'm Dustin Hall.
Good evening. I'm Jack Harris. Tonight we're tracking what health officials are now calling a public health emergency of international concern. The hydrogen sulfide gas that's been seeping from the world's oceans is no longer a coastal problem. It's everywhere. Hospitals from Norfolk to Galveston are reporting a surge in respiratory distress cases. Emergency rooms in Miami, Los Angeles, and New York are overwhelmed. Patients are presenting with severe eye damage, difficulty breathing, and symptoms doctors are describing as unlike anything they've seen before. To help us understand what we're dealing with, we're joined by Dr. Aaron Mears, a toxicologist with the CDC. Dr. Mears, thank you for being here. Can you explain what's happening to these patients?
Thank you, Jack. What we're seeing is consistent with hydrogen sulfide exposure at concentrations significantly higher than what we were measuring even 2 weeks ago. We're now routinely detecting levels between 50 and 100 parts per million in many coastal urban areas.
And what does exposure at those levels do to a person?
At 50 parts per million, you're looking at severe irritation of the eyes and respiratory tract. The gas attacks mucous membranes. People are coming in with conjunctivitis, what used to be called gas eye in industrial settings, corneal damage. Some patients may have permanent vision impairment. Beyond the eyes, the respiratory symptoms are alarming. Inflammation of the bronchial passages, fluid accumulation in the lungs. People who were healthy last week are now struggling to breathe.
Dr. Mears, a few weeks ago we were told concentrations were between 10 and 20 parts per million. Officials said it was irritating but not dangerous. What's changed?
What's changed is that the gas isn't breaking down the way atmospheric models predicted. Normally, hydrogen sulfide has a relatively short atmospheric residence time. It reacts with hydroxyl radicals in the air, a natural oxidation process that converts it into less harmful compounds. The problem is, the volume of gas being released is overwhelming that system. The hydroxyl radicals are being consumed faster than the atmosphere can regenerate them. The air's natural cleaning mechanism is failing.
So the gas is building up because there's nothing left to break it down.
That's correct. And because hydrogen sulfide is heavier than air, it's accumulating at ground level. It's not dispersing into the upper atmosphere the way carbon dioxide or methane would. It's sinking, pooling. The concentrations we're measuring today are going to be higher tomorrow.
And what happens if concentrations keep rising? What's the next threshold?
At 100 to 150 parts per million, something very dangerous happens. The olfactory nerve becomes paralyzed. The sense of smell shuts down completely.
You mean people stop smelling it?
Yes. It takes about 2 to 15 minutes at those concentrations. The nerve fatigues. It stops sending signals, and the person suddenly can't detect the gas anymore. They think it's gone. They think they're safe. But they're not. The gas is still there. And if concentrations continue to rise, they won't even know it until it's too late.
Dr. Mears, what should people be doing? Are standard masks effective?
No. I need to be very clear about this. Paper masks, surgical masks, even most respirators, they're not designed to filter hydrogen sulfide. They give people a false sense of security. The only effective protection is a fully sealed self-contained breathing apparatus, which the average person doesn't have access to.
Then what do you recommend?
Stay indoors. Seal windows and doors. If you're in a low-lying area near the coast, consider relocating to higher elevation if that's an option. The gas will settle in the lowest points first. Valleys, depressions, basements, avoid them.
Dr. Aaron Mears, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Jack. Please, Take this seriously.
When we return, growing calls for federal action as the gas continues to spread. FEMA has activated emergency response teams, but local officials say resources are already stretched beyond capacity. Stay with us.
Hey folks, Charlie Frost here, coming to you live from the bunker, and I know what some of you are thinking, Charlie. You've been saying the sky has fallen for years. Yeah, you're right, I have. But let me ask you something. What color is the sky right now? Take a look outside. Go ahead, I'll wait. That greenish haze you're seeing, that's not normal. The smell that's been making your eyes water for the past month, not normal. The hospital's turning people away because they've run out of beds, also not normal. But here's what I want to talk about tonight, because while you've been focused on the gas, on the fish die-offs, on whether your paper mask is going to save you, spoiler, it won't. Something else has been happening. Military convoys. I've got reports from listeners all across the eastern seaboard. Heavy transport vehicles, flatbeds covered with tarps, moving at night, no running lights, rolling through small towns in West Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and where are they going? Up into the mountains, the Appalachians, the Blue Ridge. Now I've been tracking these movements for about 6 weeks. At first I thought it was standard National Guard deployment, disaster prep, setting up staging areas, but the volume is off the charts. We're not talking about tents and water bottles. We're talking about heavy industrial equipment, generators, fuel reserves. And here's the thing that got my attention, aerospace components. I've got pictures, fuselage sections, what looks like satellite dish arrays. Stuff that has no business being hauled into the middle of nowhere unless you're building something very, very specific. And then I started thinking, why the mountains? Why now? And then I remembered what that scientist said on the news last week. The gas is heavier than air. It's going to pool. It's going to fill the valleys and the lowlands first. So what happens if you know that? What happens if you've known it for months? What happens if your classified models have been telling you exactly how bad this is going to get, and you've been planning accordingly while telling the rest of us to stay indoors and tape up our windows? You go to higher ground, you get above it, and you build whatever you need to build to make sure you survive what's coming. I've got a source, and I can't name them, but they're credible. Who told me there are classified facilities carved into mountain peaks across the Appalachian Range, underground hangars, airtight bunkers, and here's the kicker, runways, horizontal launch sites. Ask yourself, why would you need a runway at 5,000 feet elevation if you're not planning to fly something out of there? And fly it somewhere the gas can't reach? They're building an escape route. The elites, the military brass, the people who've been lying to us this whole time, they've got a plan. And that plan doesn't include you and me sitting in our houses wondering when the air is going to get bad enough to kill us. Now look, I'm not saying I know exactly what they're planning. Maybe it's orbital platforms. Maybe it's something off-world. Maybe it's just heavily fortified mountain bunkers where they ride this out while the rest of civilization chokes on sulfur gas. But I do know this, if you're listening to me right now and you've got any way to get to higher elevation, do it. Don't wait for them to tell you. By the time they admit how bad it is, the roads will be clogged and the mountains will be sealed off. All right? That's all I've got for tonight. I'm going to keep digging on this. If you've got information, convoy sightings, unusual military activity, anything, send it my way. Stay alert, stay mobile, and for the love of God, stop trusting the people who are building lifeboats while telling you the ship isn't sinking. Charlie Frost, out.
Good evening. I'm Jack Harris. We're coming to you tonight with breaking coverage of what can only be described as a catastrophe. Mass casualty events are being reported along the eastern seaboard, from Savannah north to Norfolk, with the highest concentration of fatalities occurring in low-lying port facilities and beachfront communities. Emergency services are overwhelmed. First responders in multiple jurisdictions have stopped answering calls. We're joined now by Sam Lerner, a dispatch coordinator with Charleston EMS. Sam, tell us what you're seeing.
Jack, it started around dawn. Calls came in slow at first. People complaining about a smell, headaches, some chest tightness. By 8 a.m., the board lit up. Every line. And it hasn't stopped.
What kind of calls are you getting?
The same thing, over and over. People saying they can't breathe. People saying someone in their house just collapsed. A woman on King Street told me there were bodies on the sidewalk. I told her to stay inside and seal the windows. She hung up before I could say anything else.
How many operators do you have working right now?
When the shift started, we had 43. Now it's maybe 8, 9 at the most. Some left to check on family. Some just stopped showing up. I don't know what happened to them.
Are ambulances still responding?
In certain zones, yes. But the waterfront, the port district, we lost contact with 3 crews this morning. Dispatch sent them in, and they never called back. Nobody's going down there anymore.
Sam Lerner from Charleston EMS. Thank you. Please stay safe. Similar scenes are playing out tonight in Jacksonville, Wilmington, Savannah, Virginia Beach. The pattern is the same everywhere. A wave of highly concentrated gas rolling in from the ocean, catching people in the lowest lying areas first. To help us understand what we're seeing, we're joined by Dr. Aaron Mears, who's been advising CDC response teams. Dr. Mears, what's happening out there?
Jack, we're seeing mass exposure events at concentration levels we've never recorded before. Initial readings from the Charleston waterfront are coming back at over 500 parts per million. Some areas near the port are registering above 1,000.
And what does that mean for people who are exposed?
At 500 parts per million, you're looking at loss of consciousness within minutes, respiratory paralysis, cardiac arrhythmia. At those concentrations, the gas binds to the mitochondrial enzymes responsible for cellular respiration. The body can't use oxygen anymore, even if there's oxygen present. At 1,000 parts per million, we're talking about what emergency responders call knockdown. 1 breath, sometimes 2, and you're down, unconscious. Without immediate intervention, which nobody out there is getting right now, you're dead within minutes.
We've received reports that people were caught completely off guard, that they stopped smelling the gas before the concentration spiked. Is that possible?
That's exactly what we warned about last week. Olfactory paralysis. At concentrations above 100 parts per million, the nerve that lets you smell the gas stops working. It fatigues, it shuts down. People who'd been smelling it for days would have suddenly noticed the smell disappear, and they would have assumed the danger had passed. But it hadn't passed. The concentration was rising. The gas was getting worse, not better. They just couldn't tell. Their own bodies betrayed them.
Do we have any estimate of casualties at this point?
We don't. And I want to be honest about that. We're still in the middle of this. First responders can't enter the affected areas without full hazmat gear, and most departments don't have enough of it. The numbers we're going to see when this is over, I can't speculate. It's going to be unlike anything this country has experienced.
What should people do right now? If you're watching this, if you're in a coastal area, what's the guidance?
If you can smell the gas at all, you're already exposed. Get to the highest floor of whatever building you're in, seal the room, tape the door, and do not go outside under any circumstances. If you stop smelling it, do not assume you're safe. That's the danger sign. That's when the concentration is rising fastest.
Dr. Aaron Mears, thank you. We'll continue to monitor this situation throughout the night. The President is expected to address the nation within the hour. Please stay inside, get elevated, and stay with us.
I want to read something to you tonight from the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verses 9 and 10. and the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. It shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. From generation to generation it shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Pastor, you just read us a passage about fire and brimstone while people are choking to death on the coast. What kind of comfort is that? And you're right to ask. So let me tell you why I chose those words tonight. Isaiah wrote those words about a nation that had forgotten who it belonged to. Not because God was angry, not because God wanted to destroy, because the people had turned away from the only thing that could save them. And the land itself started to show what that absence looked like. The streams turned to poison, the air filled with smoke. Isaiah wasn't describing God's rage. He was describing what happens when we lose our way so completely that creation itself starts to grieve. I'm not standing up here to tell you this is punishment. I don't believe that. I look at those news reports, those people on the waterfront who never had a chance, and I can't stand in front of you and say God did that to teach anyone a lesson. That's not the God I know. That's not the Jesus who wept at a friend's grave. But I will tell you this, the streams are turning, aren't they? The waters are changing. The air is filling with something we can't see and can't stop. Isaiah saw this 3,000 years ago. A man sat down and described what we're watching on the news tonight. And he didn't describe it to scare us. He described it so we'd know where to look when it came. And where do we look? We look at Jesus. That's it. That's the whole answer. When the disciples were in the boat and the storm was tearing the sails apart, they didn't calm the water. They couldn't. They looked at Christ, and Christ walked into the middle of it with them. He didn't promise them the storm would stop. He promised them they wouldn't face it alone. And that's the promise I'm holding on to tonight, because I can't tell you this gas is going to clear. I can't tell you the government has a plan that's going to fix this. I can't tell you tomorrow's going to be better than today. But I can tell you that the same God who walked on water in a storm is in this room right now, in this building, in the space between you and the person sitting next to you. He's in the breath you just took. He's in the fact that you're here, alive, listening to my voice when so many people aren't listening to anything anymore. Isaiah said the smoke goes up forever. He said none shall pass through it. And maybe that's true about the land. Maybe what's happening to the water and the air isn't something we can undo. I don't know. But I know this. Isaiah was talking about the land. He wasn't talking about the people. The land lies waste, but the people endure. The streams turn to poison, but the spirit doesn't drink from streams. That's the part Isaiah left for us to figure out. That's the part Jesus came to show us. So here's what I'm asking you tonight. Don't give in to the fear. I know it's there. I know you can smell it when the wind shifts. I know some of you have family down on the coast and you haven't heard from them. I know what that silence feels like. I'm carrying some of that silence myself. But we're still here. And as long as we're still here, we've got work to do. Somebody in this room knows how to dress a wound. Somebody knows how to fix a generator. Somebody knows how to hold a child who's been crying for 3 days. Those are gifts. Those are the hands of Christ working through you, whether you feel it or not. Let's pray. Lord, we don't understand what's happening. We're scared and we don't have answers. But you walked on the water when your friends were drowning, and you're walking on it now. Be with the ones we've lost. Be with the ones we can't reach. And be with us here in this room, because we need you. In Jesus' name, amen.
This is an official emergency alert from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, in coordination with the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Homeland Security. This message is being broadcast on all available frequencies. This is not a test. A toxic air mass advisory has been issued for the following states: South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, and portions of eastern Tennessee. Additional advisories may be issued as conditions develop. All residents within 100 miles of the Atlantic coastline are subject to this advisory effective immediately. The nature of the atmospheric hazard is hydrogen sulfide at concentrations exceeding safe exposure limits. Citizens are directed to shelter in place immediately. Do not exit residential or commercial structures. Do not attempt to travel by vehicle or on foot. All civilian movement within the advisory zone is suspended until further notice. The following protective measures are mandatory for all persons within the advisory zone. Proceed to the highest available floor of the current structure. Seal all windows and exterior doors using available materials. Avoid basements, underground parking facilities, subway systems, and all below-grade spaces. The atmospheric contaminant will accumulate in low-lying areas first. Standard protective equipment is not effective against this hazard. Paper masks, surgical masks, and commercially available respirators do not provide protection against hydrogen sulfide at elevated concentrations. Do not rely on such equipment. Do not assume safety based on possession of such equipment. Absence of odor does not indicate absence of hazard. The contaminant causes temporary loss of olfactory function at elevated concentrations. If the characteristic odor diminishes or disappears, this may indicate increasing danger, not decreasing danger. Do not exit shelter based on perceived absence of odor. Emergency services are operating under constrained capacity. Response times cannot be guaranteed. Citizens experiencing medical distress should remain in shelter and await assistance. Exiting shelter to seek medical care is not advised and may result in additional casualties. This advisory will be updated at 0600 hours or when new information becomes available. Monitor this frequency for further instructions. Repeat. A toxic air mass advisory has been issued for residents within 100 miles of the Atlantic coastline. Shelter in place immediately. Proceed to the highest available floor. Do not exit shelter. Standard protective equipment is not effective. Absence of odor does not indicate safety. This has been an official emergency alert from the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Good evening. I'm Jack Harris. We're entering the 5th month of what officials have finally acknowledged as a global atmospheric emergency. The hydrogen sulfide gas that began seeping from the world's oceans has not dispersed. It's spreading inland. We're going now to Leon Levy, who's positioned on an elevated observation point near the Savannah River. Leon has been tracking the movement of what observers are calling a gas front rolling inland from the coast. Leon, can you hear me?
Jack, I'm here. I'm about 80 feet up on the parking structure off Bay Street, and I can see it, Jack. I can actually see it.
Tell us what you're seeing, Leon.
It's like fog, Jack. But it's not fog. It's this thick, heavy, yellowish-white layer hugging the ground. It came in from the river about 2 hours ago, and it hasn't moved. It's just sitting there. Maybe 15, 20 feet deep. The streets are completely buried in it. From up here, I can see rooftops sticking out above it, car roofs, street lights, but everything at ground level is gone, swallowed up. You can't see the sidewalks. You can't see the cars themselves, just the tops poking through.
Leon, are there people down there? Is anyone trying to move through it?
There were, Jack. About an hour ago, I saw a group trying to make it to the parking structure. 4 people, looked like a family. They were running, holding their breath, I think. They got maybe 30 feet from the entrance, and they went down, one by one, like they'd been switched off. I watched them, Jack. I couldn't do anything. If I'd gone down to help, I'd be lying there with them.
Leon, I'm so sorry. How deep is the gas getting? Is it rising?
It is, Jack. When I first got up here, I could see the third-floor windows of the building across the street. Now I can't. The layer is rising. Not fast, but steady. Maybe 2 or 3 feet per hour. It's like watching water fill a bathtub, except the water is poison and there's no drain.
And the wind? Is there any movement? Any chance it'll disperse?
There's no wind, Jack. That's part of the problem. The air is dead still. Has been for days. The gas just sits there because nothing's pushing it. Nothing's mixing it. It's too heavy to rise on its own. So it fills every low point it can find and stays there. I've heard from people on the radio, amateur operators, truckers. They're saying the same thing everywhere. The valleys are filling up. River basins, anywhere water would naturally flow, that's where the gas is going. And it's not stopping.
Leon, what's your situation? How much higher can you go?
I'm on the top deck, Jack. There's nowhere else to go. The structure is 7 stories. If the gas keeps rising at this rate, I've got maybe 8 hours. Maybe less if it accelerates.
Leon, is there any way to get out? Any evacuation route?
I'd have to go down to get out, Jack. The exit is at street level. That's 30 feet under the gas right now. Even if I had a way to hold my breath long enough, my car wouldn't start. Engines need oxygen. There's none down there. The only way out is up. And there's no up left.
Leon, I want you to stay on the line with us as long as you can. We're going to try to get someone to you. I don't know how, but we're going to try.
Jack, don't. There's nothing anyone can do. I knew that when I came out here. Just tell the story. Make sure people understand what's happening. This isn't over. This is just the beginning. The gas is going to keep coming. It's going to keep filling. And the only people who are going to survive are the ones who get high enough before it reaches them. That's the story, Jack. That's what you need to tell them.
Leon, are you still there? Leon, we appear to have lost our connection with Leon Levy. We'll continue trying to reach him. Leon, if you can hear this, stay high, stay alive. We'll keep your signal open. The president is expected to address the nation shortly with a directive for all low-lying regions. If you're in a valley, a coastal plain, anywhere water would naturally collect, you need to leave now. Get to higher ground. Do not wait for official orders. Move. Good evening. We're going to take you now live to the White House, where President Thomas Whitmore is about to address the nation. This will be his first public statement since the mass casualty events along the eastern seaboard 3 days ago. We expect the president to announce a formal evacuation directive for all low-lying geographical regions.
Good evening. Let me be clear. What we are facing as a nation and as a planet is unlike anything in recorded history. Now, I've seen a lot of disaster movies, Godzilla, King Kong, the day when the giant wave hits New York and everyone runs around screaming. I've seen those films, and let me tell you something. In those movies, there's always a hero. There's always some scientist who figures it out at the last minute, or some military general who blows the thing up, or, Jeff Goldblum with a laptop. This is not the movies. There is no hero coming. There is no weapon we can deploy against an ocean that has decided to poison us. There is no laptop clever enough to hack the atmosphere. What we have is each other, and what we have to do is move. Tonight, I am ordering the immediate evacuation of all low-lying geographical basins, coastal plains, and river valleys below an elevation of 2,000 feet. This is not a suggestion. This is not guidance. This is an order from your commander-in-chief. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, well, I've lived in this valley my whole life. My family is here. My job is here. I can't just leave, and I understand that. I do. But here's the thing. The gas is heavier than air. It flows downhill. It fills every depression, every valley, every basement like water filling a pool. And once it settles, it doesn't leave. There's no wind strong enough to push it out. There's no technology that can remove it. It just sits there, and it waits. Think of it like when King Kong climbs the Empire State Building. He's climbing because that's the only way to survive. That's what we're doing now. We're climbing. We're getting to higher ground because the low ground isn't survivable anymore. Now, FEMA is coordinating evacuation corridors to mountain regions across the Appalachians, the Rockies, and other high elevation zones. The National Guard has been deployed to maintain order and assist with transportation. If you don't have a vehicle, report to your nearest designated evacuation point. I'm not going to lie to you. The roads are going to be crowded. Resources are going to be stretched. There will be difficult moments ahead, but I have faith in the American people. I have faith that when the moment calls for it, we rise. We've done it before, and we're going to do it again. Some of you are going to ask, why now? Why didn't we see this coming? And the answer is, we did. The data was there, but we chose to believe it wouldn't get this bad. We chose to wait. That time is over. So here's what I need from you. Help your neighbors. Share your resources. If you have room in your car, make room for someone who doesn't. If you have supplies, share them. This is not the time to hoard. This is the time to remember that we are fundamentally one people. To those of you already in the mountains, prepare for arrivals. Open your doors. Open your churches, your schools, your homes. The people coming to you are your countrymen, and they need your help. We will get through this, not because someone is going to save us, but because we are going to save each other. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
President Thomas Whitmore, speaking from the White House moments ago. To summarize the key directives, all citizens in areas below 2,000 feet elevation are ordered to evacuate immediately. FEMA evacuation corridors are being established to mountain regions. The National Guard is deployed for transportation assistance. The President emphasized that standard protective equipment is not effective, and that elevation is the only reliable protection. If you are in a low-lying area, leave now. We'll continue our coverage throughout the night. This is Jack Harris. We're broadcasting on emergency shortwave from a relay point west of Spartanburg. If you're receiving this signal, stay on this frequency. 9 days ago, President Whitmore ordered the evacuation of every low-lying basin in the country. Millions of people heard that order and moved. What's happened since is what I'm going to try to tell you tonight. We have a field correspondent on I-26 near the Saluda grade. Roger Thornhill took this assignment after we lost contact with Leon Levy 2 weeks ago. Roger, can you hear me?
Jack, I'm here. I'm on the shoulder about 2 miles east of the grade. The highway is a parking lot, both directions. Most of these cars haven't moved in days. Engines are dead. Batteries drained. Some of them still have belongings piled on the roofs. People are walking, Jack. Families hauling suitcases and trash bags up the shoulder. Kids on shoulders. I passed a woman carrying a dog in a laundry basket about a mile back. Some folks gave up on the road entirely and started climbing the median embankment into the trees.
Roger, is there any organized traffic control out there?
No. That ended days ago. Trucks jackknifed across both lanes near the Saluda exit. Nobody's clearing them. State Patrol pulled out yesterday morning and didn't come back. I don't know if they went home or if there's no home to go to.
We've been monitoring ham operators across the southeast tonight. The picture is bad. The French Broad River corridor went silent 4 hours ago. Nothing out of Asheville since noon. The Tennessee Valley, same story. Knoxville, Chattanooga, gone. The Ohio Basin went dark overnight. Cincinnati, Louisville, every city sitting along a river. The gas follows the water. It flows down valleys like a flood moving in reverse, filling from the bottom. Every river in this country is a highway running straight into the places people are trying to flee. Here's the elevation math as we understand it. If you're below 1,000 feet, you're out of time. Below 1,500, you've got hours. Maybe. Those numbers keep changing, and they only change in one direction.
Jack, I can see it from where I'm standing. Down behind me, where the road dips toward the river crossing, there's a haze sitting in the low ground. It wasn't there an hour ago. The people who took Route 25 south didn't make it. That highway follows the river the whole way up.
I talked to a man this morning who turned back from that road. He said the cars ahead of him just stopped and nobody got out.
That's the part people didn't think about. The evacuation routes that follow valleys, the roads that run alongside rivers, they're the same channels the gas is using. The roads that should have gotten people out are the ones that trap them. Roger, what about the mountain towns? Is there room?
It's packed, Jack. Hendersonville, Flat Rock, Brevard. Every little town up here has 10 times its population camped on whatever flat ground they can find. Church parking lots, rooftops. I've heard gunshots twice since last night. I didn't go look. Nobody's running things up here. The shelter's filled on day 2. After that, it's just people picking a spot of dirt and hoping it's high enough. The locals aren't welcoming anyone anymore.
We're hearing the ridge camps are running out of water. Power's gone across most of western North Carolina. Cell towers went down 2 days ago. If you're hearing this broadcast, someone wired a car battery to a shortwave antenna to make it happen.
Jack, hold on. Something's happening down on the grade. People are running, not walking, running uphill. The haze in that valley is thicker than it was 5 minutes ago. It's climbing, Jack. The low section of road near the creek bed. I can't see pavement down there anymore. The cars that were stopped in that stretch. The people who were walking through there 10 minutes ago.
Roger, how far up is it reaching?
I can't. It's hard to. The tree line down the slope is gone. It's at the overpass. Jack, that's a quarter mile from where I...
Roger? Roger, are you on the signal? Roger Thornhill, please respond. We've lost contact with our correspondent on I-26. We'll keep trying. If anyone on the Saluda grade is hearing this, get off the highway, get above the road, climb. We'll be back on this frequency in 30 minutes if the relay holds. This is Jack Harris. If you're above 2,000 feet, stay there. If you're not, you need to be. This is Jack Harris, broadcasting on emergency backup power from a relay station in the Blue Ridge foothills. If you're receiving this signal, you're one of the fortunate ones. The National Broadcast Network went dark about 6 hours ago. We're operating on diesel generators now, and I don't know how long our fuel supply will hold. The situation has deteriorated faster than anyone predicted. The gas is no longer confined to the coasts. It's rolled inland through every major river valley on the continent. The Mississippi Basin is completely submerged. The Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, hundreds of millions of people were in those regions. Joining me now is Colonel Harry Stamper, who served as a Pentagon advisor on infrastructure resilience. Colonel Stamper, the power grid is failing. Can you explain what's happening?
Jack, hydrogen sulfide isn't just toxic to breathe. It's corrosive. Highly corrosive to metals, especially copper and silver. And those metals are everywhere in our electrical infrastructure, contacts, switches, circuit breakers, the internals of transformers. When the gas reaches those components, it reacts, forms sulfide compounds on the metal surfaces. That degrades conductivity, increases resistance, generates heat. Eventually you get arcing, shorts, fires. The equipment destroys itself.
So the gas is attacking the grid directly.
Exactly. Most power generation facilities are located near water, rivers, coastlines for cooling purposes. Those are exactly the areas where the gas concentrated first. The plants went offline one by one. First the coastal installations, then the river stations, then everything connected to them through the grid.
What about vehicles? We've received reports that cars are stalling, not starting.
Internal combustion engines need oxygen to function. If there's not enough oxygen in the air, or if the oxygen is displaced by a heavier gas, the engine can't burn fuel properly. It sputters, it stalls, and eventually it won't restart at all. Anyone who tried to drive through a low-lying area found that out the hard way. Their vehicles died underneath them.
Colonel, one of the things we've noticed over the past week is the complete absence of wind. The air has been dead still. Is that connected to what's happening?
It's not just connected. It's fundamental to the problem. Global atmospheric circulation depends on temperature differences between regions, the equator versus the poles, land versus sea. Those differences create pressure gradients, and pressure gradients create wind. But the extreme warming that caused the ocean stagnation in the first place has also reduced those temperature differentials. The poles are warming faster than the equator, the gradients are flattening, and without gradients, the wind dies.
So we can't count on wind to clear the gas.
No, we can't. The atmosphere has entered a state of stagnation. The heavy gas layer will stay exactly where it is until something physically moves it, and there's nothing on Earth that can move that much gas. It's measured in billions of tons at this point.
Colonel Stamper, what's the military's assessment? Is there anything that can be done?
The military's role at this point is limited to evacuation support and perimeter security around high elevation zones. We've pulled all assets out of the affected areas. There's nothing to fight here. No enemy to engage. Just chemistry and physics doing what they do. The honest assessment, the low ground is lost. Anyone still down there is beyond rescue. Our focus now is preserving what we can in the high zones and preparing for what comes next.
What comes next?
The gas layer is still rising, Jack. 2, 3 feet per day in some areas. The question isn't whether it's going to reach the mountain zones. The question is how long before it does, and whether we're ready when it happens.
Colonel Harry Stamper, thank you for your candor.
Good luck, Jack. To all of us.
We're going to stay on the air as long as we can. If you're in the mountains, if you're somewhere safe, please listen. There are survivors out there trying to reach you. Help them if you can. This is Jack Harris, broadcasting on Emergency Power. Stay high, stay alive.
Wet 4RBM, calling any station. This is W4RBM, broadcasting from Pickens County, South Carolina, elevation approximately 3,200 feet. Is anyone receiving this transmission? I've been on this frequency for 6 hours now. The repeaters down in Greenville went silent yesterday. Anderson the day before that. I'm not getting anything from anywhere below 2,500 feet. Well, 4RBM calling any station. If you can hear me, please respond. I'm trying to establish contact with anyone above the gas line. There's maybe 40 of us up here on the ridge. We've got food for another week. Maybe 2 if we ration hard. Water's not a problem yet. We're collecting rain. But the rain's been strange. Burns a little when it hits your skin. Well, 4RBM calling any station. Anybody? Just anybody. I tried calling my son in Columbia. Tried for 3 days. Nothing. Columbia's in the Piedmont. Maybe 800 feet elevation. The gas would have reached there a few days ago. I keep telling myself maybe he got out. Maybe he drove up into the mountains before the roads clogged. Maybe he's on some other ridge right now, trying to call me. Maybe his radio's just broken. But I know how fast that gas moved. I watched it come up the valley from my porch. Took maybe 4 hours to fill the whole thing, rim to rim. 4 hours. Yen 4 RBM, call him any station. This is a wellness check. If anyone is receiving this transmission, please identify your location and elevation. You know, I used to complain about living up here, too far from town. Bad cell reception, took forever to get groceries, 40 minutes to the nearest hospital. I used to think that was a burden. Funny how that works. The thing you thought was holding you back turns out to be the thing that saves you. Or at least buys you time. Because that's all this is, really. Borrowed time. The gas is still rising. I can see the top of the layer from up here. Looks like clouds, but it's not. It's lower, heavier. Got that yellowish tint to it. Yesterday it was at the tree line about a mile down. Today it's closer. Can't tell exactly how much, but it's closer. The mountain across from us. You used to be able to see the whole thing. Now there's maybe 500 feet poking out above the layer. There were people living on that mountain. Little community up near the top. We used to wave at their lights at night. The lights went out 2 nights ago. The hard part isn't the fear. I've been scared before. The hard part is the silence. When you key up and call out, nothing comes back. Just nothing. I keep thinking about all those voices that used to be on this frequency. The guys I talked to at night. Jim down in Asheville. Mike from over in Boone. Sarah from that little station up near Blowing Rock. Good people. Friendly people. Some of them were elevated enough. They should have made it, but I haven't heard from any of them in days. Wave 4RBM standing by. I'll keep this frequency open as long as I've got power. If you can hear me, you're not alone, even if it feels like you are. Web 4RBM. Call on any station. Call anyone.
This is Jack Harris, broadcasting on military shortwave frequency 7.425 MHz from the Blue Ridge Emergency Operations Bunker, Pickens County, South Carolina. Today is month 8. We're still here. Some of us. For any survivors receiving this transmission, I want to give you an update on conditions in the southeastern mountain region. We've been monitoring atmospheric readings continuously, and the data tells a story that's both terrifying and, strangely, predictable. Joining me today is Dr. Adrian Helmsley, who's been leading our scientific assessment team since the bunker opened. Dr. Helmsley, what are we looking at out there?
Jack, after 8 months of continuous monitoring, the atmospheric chemocline has finally reached a state of equilibrium. The gas layer has stopped rising. It's stabilized.
That sounds like good news.
It's not. The layer has stabilized at approximately 2,500 feet above sea level. That's the new permanent boundary. Everything below that line is gone. Not temporarily. Permanently. Do you understand what that means? Every coastal city, every river valley, the entire Mississippi Basin, the Great Plains, most of Europe, virtually all of Asia, except the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau. Gone. Submerged under a blanket of poison that isn't going anywhere.
What about here? The Blue Ridge? We're above that line.
Barely. This bunker sits at 3,200 feet. That gives us a margin of about 700 feet. The peaks around us, Sassafras Mountain, Pinnacle Mountain, they're above 3,400. Those are the only survivable zones in this entire region. The towns down in the Piedmont, Easley, Clemson, Greenville, they were all below 1,000 feet. The gas reached them in the first week. There's nothing left down there, just the white layer and whatever it's buried.
For our listeners who might be trying to reach this region, can you describe what the terrain looks like now?
It's like looking at islands in a sea. From the observation point outside the bunker, you can see the mountaintops poking up above the gas layer. The layer itself looks almost peaceful from above. This smooth, grayish-white surface stretching to the horizon. It reflects the sunlight. It looks like clouds. But it's not clouds. It's the atmosphere's new floor, and beneath it is everything we lost.
Dr. Helmsley, how are we surviving up here? For people who've managed to get to high ground, what's keeping them alive?
Altitude and preparation. The gas is heavier than normal air, so it pools in low areas. Above the chemocline, the air is still breathable, thin, but breathable. This bunker was designed for continuity of government operations. It has closed-loop chemical oxygen generators, independent water recycling, stored food supplies. We can survive here for months, maybe a year, without any external support.
And the refugee camps? The civilians who made it to the mountains?
They're in a harder situation. Most of the high ground camps are tent cities, improvised shelters. They're exposed to the elements. Food supplies are rationed. And there's another problem we haven't talked about yet.
What's that?
The rain. The gas layer is constantly reacting with atmospheric oxygen and ozone at its upper boundary. That reaction produces sulfur dioxide, which rises into the clouds and converts to sulfuric acid. When it rains now, it's not water, it's dilute acid. We've measured precipitation with a pH below 3. That's corrosive enough to damage skin with prolonged exposure. It's killing the vegetation. It's contaminating the water supplies. The mountains aren't safe. They're just less immediately fatal.
Dr. Helmsley, I have to ask you directly. Is there any path forward? Any scenario where things get better?
On this planet? No. Not in our lifetimes. The gas will persist for decades, maybe centuries. The acid rain will continue as long as the gas layer exists. The ozone damage will intensify. Earth isn't recovering from this. It's transitioning into something else, something we can't survive in.
That's a grim assessment.
It's an honest one. I've stopped being optimistic, Jack. I've started being accurate. The people listening to this deserve the truth, not hope that doesn't exist.
Dr. Adrian Helmsley, thank you. To all survivors receiving this transmission, this is Jack Harris from the Blue Ridge Emergency Operations Bunker. We'll continue broadcasting on this frequency as long as we're able. Stay covered and stay alive.
Brothers and sisters, I want you to hear the word of the Lord tonight. Not my words, his words. From the book of Psalms, chapter 104, verse 29. Listen now, listen close. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled. Thou takest away their breath, they die, and return to their dust. Those are the words of the psalmist. Thou takest away their breath. Do you hear that? The Lord spoke those words 3,000 years ago. And tonight we're living them. I stood at the edge of this ridge yesterday morning. I looked out over that valley where my church used to be, where my house used to be, where I baptized children and buried their grandparents. And do you know what I saw? Nothing. A sea of white, a sea of silence, a sea that holds the bodies of everyone I ever knew who didn't make it up this mountain in time. And I fell to my knees. And I wept. I wept like a child because I didn't understand. I didn't understand why the Lord would take their breath, why he would hide his face from so many, why he would let the righteous perish alongside the wicked. But then I remembered what Scripture teaches us about the refining fire. The book of Malachi tells us, he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And what does that mean? It means the fire isn't punishment. It's purification. The fire burns away everything that's impure, everything that's temporary, everything that we thought we needed but never did. Look at us. Look at what we've lost. Our homes, our cars, our bank accounts, our jobs, all the things we spent our whole lives chasing, all the things we thought mattered, gone, burned away. And what's left? What's left is us. What's left is each other. What's left is the only thing that ever mattered in the first place. Our souls, our faith, our love for one another. The fire couldn't take that. The gas couldn't take that. Nothing can take that unless we let it. I know some of you are angry. I know some of you are asking, where was God when my family died? Where was God when the gas took my children? Where was God when I had to choose who got a seat in the truck and who got left behind? I know those questions. I've asked them myself. I've screamed them into the sky until my voice gave out. And I don't have answers. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend I understand the mind of God. But I'll tell you what I believe. I believe he didn't hide his face. I believe he was there in every act of mercy. Every stranger who made room in their car, every neighbor who shared their last can of food, every hand that reached out to pull someone up that mountain, that was him. That was his face, not hidden, not absent, working through us, working through the broken, terrified, desperate love of people who still chose to help each other even when the world was ending around them. So what do we do now? We've been refined. We've been tested. We've walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and we're still walking. The psalmist says, thou takest away their breath. They die and return to their dust. But listen to the next verse, verse 30. Thou sendest forth thy spirit. They are created, and thou renewest the face of the earth. You hear that? Renewal, creation. The story doesn't end with dust. The story ends with the Lord breathing new life into the world. Maybe not this world, maybe not in our time, but the story doesn't end. Let us pray. Lord, We are broken. We are grieving. We are standing on the edge of an abyss that holds everything we ever loved. But we are not defeated. We are not abandoned. We are not alone. Give us strength to face another day. Give us grace to help each other. And give us faith to believe that somehow, your breath will renew what has been lost. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
NWL calling any station. Anybody still on this frequency, please come back. Along the 4NWL. I'm on Round Mountain, north end of the ridge, near the old weather station, elevation 6,200 feet. Been transmitting on this frequency every night for 3 weeks. Haven't heard a voice in 11 days.
W4RBM. I read you. Barely. You're coming in choppy. What for RBM? Thank God.
Read you.
Max Patch. Western Carolina. There's maybe 200 of us up here. Used to be more. Lost a few to the storms and a few just walked off one night. I try not to think about where they went.
How's your water? We've been catching rain and it's making people sick. Stomach cramps. A couple of folks with blisters on their lips from drinking it.
Don't drink the rain. I mean it. We had a woman catch a storm without cover 2 days ago. Burns on her arms, her face. Looked like she'd spilled a car battery on herself. Another man tried to wash with it, and the skin on his hands started peeling by nightfall.
Same here. We tested it last week. Guy in our camp used to teach chemistry. He said the pH is somewhere below 2. That's not rain. That's acid. He tried boiling it, and the steam burned his eyes.
It's the sulfur, coming up from that gas layer. It reacts with something in the clouds and comes back down as acid. Every storm that rolls through is worse than the last. We've got tops over the camp, and the acid's eating holes through them.
You notice the trees? The spruce up here are losing their needles. All of them. The hardwoods dropped their leaves 2 months early and nothing grew back. The whole ridgeline is going brown. I can stand at the overlook and see bare trunks in every direction.
Same thing on our side. The understory is dead. Nothing's growing in the soil anymore. We had a garden going and everything in it turned black after the last storm. The acid rain is killing the ground itself.
What about the creeks? We were pulling water from the spring on the north slope and it started coming up yellow.
Every open water source up here is contaminated. The only clean water left is what was sealed in containers before the storm started.
And the sun. W4RBM. Have you been outside on a clear day?
Once. 15 minutes. Got blisters on the back of my neck and my hands. Like a sunburn, but it came on faster than any burn I've ever had. Whatever's protecting us from the ultraviolet is gone. The sulfur compounds that are wrecking the trees are tearing up the upper atmosphere, too.
We had the same thing. A kid got caught outside during a gap in the clouds. Maybe 20 minutes. Second-degree burns on his shoulders. His mother's been keeping him in a sleeping bag in the dark. So we can't drink the rain. We can't grow food. We can't go outside when it's cloudy because the acid will burn us. We can't go outside when it's clear because the UV will burn us. What's left?
The gas hasn't moved in weeks. Wherever it's settled, that's where it's staying. The air below 2,500 feet is gone. Everything above that is turning into something we can't live in either.
The chemistry teacher told me the same thing. He said the mountains aren't saving us, they're buying us months, maybe a year if we're lucky. After that, there's nowhere on this planet a person can survive without a sealed building and filtered air.
And we don't have sealed buildings. We've got tents, tops with holes in them, a couple of cabins that leak. That's what we're working with.
The coasts are gone, the valleys are gone, and now the peaks are dying too. The whole thing is turning into something that doesn't want us here anymore.
Life will come back someday. Millions of years from now. That's what the science people keep saying. The planet recovers. It always recovers. We're the part it doesn't need.
You're 4RBM. Your signal's getting thin. I'll be on this frequency tomorrow night. Same time?
Copy. Battery's low anyway. W4NWL. If I don't come back on tomorrow, keep calm. Somebody's got to still be out there.
Wow, 4NWL standing by. If anyone else is hearing this, Rowan Mountain, 6,200 feet. We're still here. The rain's eating what's left and the sun is finishing the job, but we're still here.
Hey there, survivors. Charlie Frost coming at you live from somewhere in the Smoky Mountains. I'm broadcasting on shortwave because, well, the internet doesn't exist anymore. The grid is gone. The satellites are failing. But old-fashioned radio still works. And I've got something to tell you that's going to blow your mind. Remember back in the early days of this thing? Remember when I told you about the military convoys heading into the mountains? All that aerospace equipment? The heavy machinery being hauled up logging roads at 3 in the morning? Remember when people called me crazy? Well, guess what? I wasn't crazy. I was right. And now I know what they were building. Now I know what all those bunkers and hangars and runway strips were for. They weren't building shelters, people. They were building an escape route. I've got a source inside one of the military installations, someone who's been feeding me information for the past 3 months. And what they've told me is going to change everything you think you know about what's happening. There's a project called Artemis. Not the NASA moon program you heard about on the news. The real Artemis, the classified one. For the past decade, the United States military has been building a permanent lunar mining colony. Not for science, not for exploration, for exactly this scenario. They knew this was coming. Maybe not the exact mechanism, but they knew something catastrophic was on the horizon. The environmental data, the ocean models, the atmospheric projections, they had access to all of it. And while they were telling us everything was fine, they were quietly building a lifeboat, not for us, of course, for themselves, for the politicians, the generals, the billionaires, the essential personnel, a select few thousand people who get to live while the rest of us die on a poisoned planet. The mountain installations aren't just bunkers. They're launch facilities, horizontal takeoff space planes, military vehicles designed to skip through the upper atmosphere and reach lunar orbit without going through the toxic lower air. They've got hangars carved into the rock, runways hidden in the valleys, everything they need to get off this rock. My source says there are at least 4 active launch sites in the Appalachians alone. Sassafras Mountain, Grandfather Mountain, Mount Mitchell, maybe more in the Rockies, maybe some we don't know about. Each one capable of getting a shuttle into orbit with a few hundred people on board. And here's the kicker. They're getting ready to launch. The acid rain is eating through the infrastructure faster than they expected. The UV exposure is making outdoor operations impossible. They've realized they can't wait any longer. The window is closing. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, if there's a way off this planet, how do I get on one of those ships? And the answer is, you probably don't. The manifest is already set. The passengers have been selected. If your name isn't on the list, you're staying here to die with the rest of us. But here's the thing. The people in those bunkers, the scientists, the engineers, the military personnel, they're not all on board with leaving everyone behind. Some of them have families in the camps. Some of them have consciences. Some of them are going to fight to get more people on those ships. If you're in one of the refugee camps near a military installation, watch for activity. Watch for vehicles moving at night. Watch for security cordons being expanded. When they start pulling people inside, that's your moment. That's when you push. That's when you demand your seat on the lifeboat. Look, I'm not saying storm the gates. I'm not saying get yourself shot, but I am saying that your survival instinct is valid. Your desire to live is valid. And if there's a way off this dying world, you have as much right to it as any politician or general. This is Charlie Frost, broadcasting the truth while I still can. The government lied to us. The corporations lied to us. The scientists who said everything would be fine lied to us. But the truth is coming out now. And the truth is this. There's a way to survive. There's a colony on the moon that can sustain human life. And the only question is who gets to go. Stay vigilant. People, stay angry. And stay alive long enough to fight for your seat. Charlie Frost out.
I found this recorder in a supply crate near the South Tunnel. Figured somebody should say something while there's still time. My name is Marcus Hooper. I'm in the Sassafras Mountain facility, and I'm not getting on those ships. The launch window opened a few hours ago. They started loading passengers around dawn. 4 ships, 200 seats each, 800 people out of the 6,000 and change who made it to this mountain. They posted the manifest on the wall of the mess hall last night. I wasn't on it. Neither was anyone I came here with. I stood in front of that list for a long time. Read every name. Check twice. Some people around me were arguing, saying there had to be a mistake. There wasn't a mistake. The math was right. The math was always going to leave most of us standing here. The selection criteria were taped to the wall next to the list. Essential personnel first. Engineers, medical, pilots, people who can keep the colony running. After that, they picked for genetic diversity, age, health. They need people who can work and have children. That's the math. I'm 47 with a bad knee, and I used to manage a hardware store. I watched them walk through the boarding gate. Single file. Some of them were crying. Most weren't. Most had this blank look, like they'd already left, and their bodies hadn't caught up yet. A woman near the front kept turning around to look at somebody in the crowd. A soldier pushed her forward. She didn't turn around again. There was a man, younger than me, carrying a little girl on his hip. She couldn't have been more than 3. The woman behind them was holding a boy, maybe 5. The boy kept asking where they were going, and she told him they were going on a trip. He'll grow up on the moon and he won't remember any of this. That's the best thing I can think to say about any of it. The ships are something else. They're not rockets. They sit flat, like passenger jets, but wider and heavier. Military built them in here. Carved this whole hangar out of the mountain over years, and nobody said a word. There's a runway cut into the ridge, a mile long, opens straight out into the sky. They'll roll the ships out and hit Mach 3 before they leave the ground. That's what the colonel told us in the briefing. Mach 3. Then they pitch up and punch through the gas layer before it can touch them. Once they're past 60,000 feet, the air's clean enough for the scramjets to kick in, push them to orbit. 3 days to the moon after that. The Artemis colony. Lava tubes with pressure seals, nuclear power, ice mines for water, hydroponic farms and artificial light. Built for 5,000 people. They've been up there 3 years already, and nobody told us. Nobody told us. That's the part 1 keeps circling back to. They knew this was coming. They built the ships. They carved the runway. They stocked the colony. And they let 6 billion people die without saying a word, because there wasn't room for them. The acid rain last night ate 3 inches off the blast doors. The colonel said they've got maybe 6 hours before the hangar's exposed. Once that happens, the corrosion gets into the shuttle electronics, eats the fuel lines. Everything dies. So they're rushing, loading people like cargo, shouting over the alarms. They told us the bunker will stay operational after they leave. Enough food for 6 months if we ration carefully. Maybe a year. And then what? The acid keeps falling. The UV keeps burning through whatever we put up for shade. The doors give out, and the air turns on us. A year's a long time to sit in a hole waiting for that. There's talk in the tunnels. People are angry. I heard shouting near the east perimeter about an hour ago. Soldiers moved in quick. Nobody rushed the gate yet, but it's getting close. You can feel it in the way people are standing, closer to the fences than they were this morning. The thing that keeps going through my head is how quiet the boarding line is. 800 people walking onto ships that'll carry them off the planet, and it's quiet. No cheering, no celebration. Shoes on metal grating, and somebody coughing. That's it. The president's supposed to say something before they seal the hangar doors. One last address for the rest of us. Yeah, I don't know what a man says to 5,000 people he's leaving to die on a mountain. I don't know what words cover that. If somebody finds this recording, if it makes it onto one of those ships somehow, I want the people on the moon to know something. We were here, 5,200 people who didn't make the list. We had names. Some of us walked 400 miles to get to this mountain. I can hear the engines starting up from here. The walls are shaking, dust coming down from the ceiling. So this is what it sounds like. Turbines spooling up on the other side of a wall you're not allowed past.
My fellow Americans, my fellow human beings, I come before you tonight not as your president, but as a man who's about to do something unforgivable, and who needs to look you in the eye when he does it. You know, when I was a kid, I watched a lot of movies. Science fiction, mostly. The Day the Earth Stood Still, Close Encounters, E.T. Movies where something impossible happened, and humanity rose to meet it, where we found a way, because that's what humans do. In those movies, there was always a moment near the end where everything seemed lost, where the heroes were outnumbered, outmanned, outgunned, outplanned, and then someone gave a speech, and the music swelled, and somehow, miraculously, everybody survived. I wish I could give you that speech tonight. I wish I could tell you that if we just believe hard enough, if we fight hard enough, we're all going to make it. But that would be a lie. And I'm not going to lie to you. Not tonight. Not about this. The ships behind me can carry 800 people. 800! Out of the 6,000 who made it to this mountain, out of the billions who didn't. That's not a rescue. That's a rounding error. That's a lifeboat on the Titanic, except the Titanic is the entire planet. I've been told my seat is guaranteed, that I'm essential personnel, the president of a country that doesn't exist anymore, essential to a colony that's never known my name. That's a sick joke, but I'm taking the seat anyway, because someone needs to carry the memory of who we were. To those of you staying behind, and I know you can hear me, I don't have the words. There are no words. How do you apologize for leaving someone to die? How do you ask forgiveness for something you're choosing to do anyway? You trusted your government to protect you. You trusted your leaders to have a plan. And we did have a plan. The plan was to save ourselves and let everyone else burn. That's the truth. That's what we did. And I'm not going to pretend it was noble or necessary or anything other than exactly what it was. Survival of the fortunate. But here's what I want you to know. The people who are staying, you're not dying forgotten. You're not dying invisible. Every face in that camp is being recorded. Every name is being written down. And when we get to that colony, when we build something new, the first thing we're going to do is carve those names into stone. We're going to remember. We're going to tell our children and their children about the people who couldn't come with us, about the world we lost, about the price we paid to exist at all. You know, in all those movies I watched as a kid, the aliens were always the bad guys. The threat came from out there, from space, from somewhere beyond our understanding. We never imagined that the thing that would end us was already here, was under our feet the whole time, was the ocean itself, finally tired of what we'd done to it. Maybe that's the lesson. Maybe that's what we were supposed to learn and never did, that the planet wasn't ours, that we were guests, not owners. And when we forgot that, when we pushed too hard, took too much, treated this world like it existed to serve us, it stopped tolerating us. The hangar doors are opening. The shuttles are ready. In 15 minutes, I'm going to walk onto that ship and leave the only home humanity has ever known. And I'm going to carry every single one of you with me, in my heart, in my conscience, for whatever time I have left. Goodbye, Earth. Goodbye, America. Goodbye to every person standing in those camps, looking up at these mountains, knowing what comes next. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
This is Dr. Adrian Helmsley, recording from the observation deck of Transport Shuttle 3, designation Artemis 7. All 4 transports have cleared the atmosphere. We're in stable orbit, 812 people aboard the fleet. I'm recording this as a scientific log, but I'll be honest, I don't know how much of this is going to be science and how much is going to be something else. What I'm looking at out the viewport isn't something I was trained for. The planet is wrapped in a sulfate aerosol layer, uniform, gray-white, covering everything. I can't see the continents, I can't see the oceans. No blue, no green, just this milky veil, stretching from pole to pole. It looks like a pearl that somebody dropped in ash. The photographs from before the excursion show a planet that's mostly dark blue, with white cloud bands and patches of brown and green continent. There's nothing left that matches those images, not a single recognizable feature. If I didn't know where I was, I wouldn't know what planet that is. The haze is reflecting solar radiation back into space before it can reach the surface. The same sulfuric acid that's been falling as corrosive rain is now acting as a planetary mirror. Surface temperatures are already dropping. They'll keep dropping. Within a few years, the extreme warming that triggered the ocean's stagnation will reverse into extreme cooling. The oceans, already saturated with hydrogen sulfide, will freeze. The surface will lock under ice. A frozen, toxic shell over a dead sea. That's the trajectory. Nuclear winter. That's the plainest way to say it. First the heat killed the oceans. Then the poison killed the air. Now the haze will kill the light. 3 phases, each one feeding the next. The planet triggered a cascade, and the cascade is still running. We warmed it. The warming stagnated the oceans. The stagnation bred the sulfide. The sulfide poisoned the air. And now the sulfate haze blocks the sun, cause and effect stretching back decades. The launch itself is worth documenting. The acceleration was sustained at close to 4 Gs for nearly 2 minutes. The cabin vibrated so badly that I couldn't read the instruments in front of me. Then we punched through the aerosol layer and the shaking stopped. Silence. Weightlessness. I looked around the cabin. Nobody cheered. A woman 2 rows ahead had her eyes closed and her hands flat on the armrests. The man next to me was staring at the floor, looking down through the haze during ascent. There was a moment when I could see the boundary layer, the top of the sulfide blanket, sitting on the planet like a second ocean. Dense, uniform, stretching in every direction. Everything underneath that layer is gone. Every city, every road, every field, everything we built over 10,000 years, buried under a gas we created in 14 months. Transit to the Artemis colony is 3 days. The trajectory is calculated for fuel efficiency, not speed. We'll approach from the South Pole, where the landing pads are. The other 3 shuttles are visible from the viewport, small white shapes in formation against the black. 4 ships carrying every human being who's going to survive this century. I've reviewed the colony specifications. The habitats are lava tubes, natural caverns from ancient volcanic activity, good for radiation shielding, stable temperature. The spaces are tight, artificial lighting only, water from ice mining at the poles, food from hydroponic bays running on grow lamps, nuclear power for everything. Every resource will be rationed, every calorie tracked. It's survival, but it's a narrow kind of survival. Natural sunlight on skin is finished, rain you can stand in, wind, bird song, the smell of dirt after a storm. Those are earth things and earth is behind us. Someone on the flight deck asked me if the planet will recover. Yes, it will. The oceans will oxygenate again. New species will fill the gaps. Forests will grow back. In 10 million years, maybe 20, Earth will be alive again. It did it after the Permian. It'll do it again. But we won't be there for it. Our children won't. 1,000 generations of our descendants won't. We broke it on a timeline measured in decades. It'll heal on a timeline we can't measure in lifetimes. That's the gap. That's the cost. I keep looking out the viewport. It's getting smaller, the gray pearl shrinking against the black. 8 billion people under that haze. Everyone I knew who isn't on these 4 ships. Every city and coastline and road I ever drove. The moon is our home now. I need to say that out loud so I can start believing it. This is Dr. Helmsley, ending log entry, Artemis 7, en route.
This is an automated emergency broadcast. There is no government authority monitoring this frequency. This message is generated from residual power reserves and will terminate when those reserves are exhausted. There will be no further updates. The Artemis evacuation fleet launched successfully. All 4 transports have departed. No additional flights are scheduled. No additional flights are possible. The launch facility has been permanently disabled by acid corrosion. Remaining personnel are on their own. The following survival guidance is provided without guarantee of accuracy or effectiveness. Do not descend below 3,000 feet elevation under any conditions. Hydrogen sulfide concentrations below that altitude are immediately fatal. Do not rely on odor as a warning. Olfactory function fails before lethal exposure occurs. Do not collect or consume rainwater without sealed filtration. Precipitation pH is below 2.0. Unfiltered rainwater will cause chemical burns to the mouth, throat, and digestive tract. Exposure to open skin will result in acid burns within minutes. Do not expose bare skin to direct sunlight for more than 10 minutes. Stratospheric ozone depletion has increased ultraviolet radiation to levels that cause second-degree burns in under 15 minutes. Remain under cover during daylight hours when cloud cover is absent. Sealed underground shelter is the only viable long-term habitation. Cave systems, mine shafts, and hardened bunker facilities offer the highest probability of sustained survival. Seal all entry points against atmospheric intrusion. Establish air filtration using activated carbon or mineral filtration if available. Subterranean water sources filtered through natural rock strata may be safe for consumption. Test all water for sulfur content before ingestion. Surface water sources are presumed contaminated. No federal, state, or local government is operational. No military assets remain deployed on the surface. No rescue or resupply is forthcoming from any source. Survivors are directed to organize locally and preserve all remaining resources. This message will repeat until power failure. May God have mercy.
Ten years ago, 4 ships lifted off from a runway carved into a mountain in South Carolina. 812 people were aboard. Behind them, under a blanket of hydrogen sulfide and sulfuric haze, 8 billion were not. This is the story of what came after. The Artemis mining colony had been operational for 3 years before the Exodus fleet arrived. Built into a network of ancient lava tubes near the lunar South Pole, it was designed to house 5,000 miners and engineers. It was never designed to be the last outpost of human civilization, but that's what it became. The lava tubes provide natural radiation shielding and hold a stable temperature. Nuclear reactors buried in the regolith supply the power. Water comes from ice deposits at the South Pole, hauled in by automated drilling rigs and melted in pressurized tanks. Food grows under artificial light in hydroponic bays carved into the rock. Every calorie is tracked. Every liter of water is recycled. Every watt of electricity is accounted for. The colony survives because nothing is wasted. The original population of 812 has grown to just over 1,000. 214 children have been born in the colony. They've never felt wind on their faces. They've never heard birdsong or watched clouds move across the sky. The color blue, to these children, exists only in photographs and in the stories their parents tell before lights out. The older residents still speak of Earth with a specificity that surprises them. A woman in Habitat Module C described the weight of summer air in Georgia. A mining foreman talked about standing in his driveway during a thunderstorm. These memories surface without warning, provoked by nothing more than a flicker in the grow lamps or the hum of a ventilation fan that sounds, for half a second, like a highway. Telescopic observation of Earth continues from the colony's surface array. The data confirms what was predicted in those final log entries recorded during the Exodus transit. The sulfate aerosol haze that wrapped the planet during the final months has thickened into a permanent reflective shell. Solar radiation bounces off this layer before reaching the surface. The extreme warming that stagnated the oceans has reversed into extreme cooling. Equatorial surface temperatures now average 4 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. The poles are far colder. The oceans, still saturated with hydrogen sulfide beneath the surface, have frozen solid. A toxic sea locked under sheets of ice. From the telescope, Earth looks the same as it did from the shuttle viewports a decade ago. A gray pearl. No blue, no green, no visible continents. Radio signals from the surface ceased 14 months after the exodus. The last transmission received was the automated EAS loop broadcasting from the Blue Ridge bunker. After that, silence. The bunkers held enough supplies for 6 months, a year at the outside. The advancing cold and acid precipitation likely ended what remained. The 5,200 people left in the Sassafras Mountain facility. The survivors scattered across the Appalachian Ridge camps, the isolated pockets on the Rockies and the Alps and the Andes. Their fates aren't recorded in any log. Their names aren't preserved in any database. They're gone. The planet will recover. Scientists in the colony estimate the oceans will oxygenate again in 10 to 20 million years. New ecosystems will emerge. Forests will return. Earth has done this before, after the Permian extinction, and it'll do it again. But the timeline is geological, not human. No generation alive in this colony will see it happen. No child born in these lava tubes will ever walk on Earth's surface. The homeworld is a monument now. A frozen sphere visible through a telescope, close enough to see and too far gone to touch. In the colony school, children study a subject called Earth history. They learn about oceans and weather and animals they'll never see. They learn about the Chemocline excursion and the 14 months that ended a civilization. To them, it's ancient history. To their parents, it's last night's dream. The gap between those two experiences grows wider every year. And when the last person who remembers the smell of rain is gone, so is the last living thread connecting this colony to the world that built it. What remains after that is curriculum, data, photographs of a blue planet that no longer exists. 1,000 people live inside the moon. They breathe filtered air and eat food grown under lamps and drink water melted from ice that's been frozen for 3 billion years. And every night, through the observation ports on the surface level, they can look up and see the gray pearl hanging in the black where blue used to be.
This is Frank Gleason, broadcasting from the Climax Mine Complex, Leadville, Colorado. Elevation 10,400 feet. If anyone is receiving this on any frequency, any band, anywhere, we are still here. We keep the radio working. It is one of the things we maintain. There's a relay station on the surface, solar powered, about 2 miles from the main entrance. Someone has to go up every 6 months to clear the dust off the panels and check the connections. We rotate that duty. No one wants it. The antenna runs through a collapsed section of the tube, up through a vertical shaft we had forced with salvaged habitat material. We lose signal sometimes when there's surface activity, meteorite impacts, seismic events, but we get it back. We always get it back. 10 years. 10 years since this world decided it had enough of us. They told us the bunkers would last a year. A generous estimate. They told us to ration and wait. Wait for what? Nobody said, because there was nothing to wait for. We were the ones they decided weren't worth saving. But here's the thing. We didn't die. 43 of us made it to the old molybdenum mine above Leadville before the acid rain got bad enough to kill on contact. The mine shafts go deep. Miles of tunnels cut 100 years ago by men looking for metal. Turns out a hole in the mountain is a pretty good place to hide from a planet that doesn't want you anymore. We sealed the main entrance with concrete and scrap steel from the old processing facility. Ran ventilation through a filtration rig that Hera built from mining equipment, and furnace filters. That woman scienced the absolute shit out of it. Saved our lives with duct tape and activated carbon. I still don't fully understand how it works, but it works. Water comes from a spring that feeds into the lower tunnels. The rock filters most of the sulfur compounds out before it reaches us. Most, not all. That's why I sound like this. 10 years of breathing trace sulfide does things to your lungs. Everybody here coughs, some worse than others. Food was hard. Food was the hard part. We burned through the canned supplies in the first 14 months. After that was wild trial and error. A lot of things we tried made people sick. Somebody figured out that certain fungi would grow on the mine timbers if you kept them damp. We've got 3 species now that we can eat. They taste like wet cardboard and dirt, but they keep us alive. Life found a way. That's what I keep telling the kids. There are 9 children in the mine. 5 were born here. They've never been outside. They've never seen the sky. But they're alive. They're growing. And they laugh and fight over whose turn it is to feed the chickens. Yes, we have chickens. Brought 6 heads into the mine. On the last trip before we sealed the entrance. We're down to a flock of 11 now. They eat scraps and insects and whatever grain we can sprout from under lamp rigs. Fresh eggs That is the closest thing to luxury that we've got. I'm going to say this because I want it on record. 800 people got on those ships. 800 out of 6,000 on that mountain alone. Out of the millions who were still alive in the ridge camps and the bunkers, that the caves, they picked who mattered, and they left the rest of us to rot. And we didn't rot. We're still here. 43 went into this mine. We lost 11 over the years. Bad water in the early months. A tunnel collapsed in year 3. 2 people who walked out of the emergency shaft one night and didn't come back. But 32 of us are breathing. Rough breathing, but still breathing. The service hasn't changed. We sent scouts out through the upper shafts when the wind is right. Short trips, sealed suits built from rain gear and breathing masks. Never more than an hour. The mountains are bare. The trees are gone. Every slope is brown rock and gray dust, and the bones of what used to be forests. But 3 months ago, one of the scouts found moss growing on the north side of the boulder, near an old tree line. Moss. Green moss on a dead mountain. I held a piece of it in my glove. I just stood there. The planet, it isn't done. It's hurt, and it's poisoned. It's frozen over, but something is still trying. If there's anyone on the moon listening to this, I want you to know, you left us, and we lived. And if there's anyone else down here, anyone still hiding in a mine or a cave, or sealed in a basement above the gas line, find a radio, find this frequency. We've got water and food and children who have never seen the sun, but know how to laugh. We are still here. We are still surviving and waiting.